So it's a little bit thinner, but it doesn't matter. You can keep it thicker. It doesn't matter how you vary it. And the center is a very simple dot in the middle. Oops. And then, oh, the outside. The outside is a thick line. And remember we were talking about when we were drawing these, and in the PDF, you can see the instructions. I like to work with thick and thin lines. Not only it gives the flowers and the leaves and the gardens at the end a perspective of what is close and what is farthest, being the lines that are thick. Theory, that's the theory in any case, that the thicker lines indicate closest proximity and the thinner ones farthest. But in this case, in these Gardens of Your Soul case, they're just a way of making visual color to it, because we're all working with pencil and paper. So it gives it a little bit more depth and interest. Ooh. Sometimes my hand just twitches and draws funky little lines. Then, I don't know if you can see it here. What I drew here was a circle underneath the center. And this is because some flowers have a little, like a cone. The center comes to a cone shape, and there's a little dip inside the center of the flower. So to indicate that usually this actually happens. See how this forms that shape? If this was a 5-leaf petal, this is what would happen, the shape that it would do. But sometimes I simplify that shape. In any case, it's a 4-leaf petal, but I can't join 4. I can't join 4 fingers to show you. But this is what happens. And like I say, sometimes I draw this particularly, and this is what happened here. You can see how the lines curve inward. This is basically it. The reason why these are the equivalent of petals, and this is what happens when that cone-shaped center happens. But in some cases, I just draw a circle, and it makes the option. It's another option to apply to your designs to create new ones. So here I'm using the reference that I had drawn, the circle. To draw this one, I'm just going to fill it in a little bit. And that will give the flower a little, see how it starts to change. Then in your cheat sheet or in your glossary page, which I like best, thank you, Jen, we are going to use, you can reference that glossary, híjole, mano. You can reference it always, because it's good for petals and it's good for leaves also. In this case, we're looking at the leaves pages, but here what I did for this flower, there was a color change in the photo. And I don't remember which one is this. I think this is the orange. Let's go to that page. That's the orange. I don't remember the name of that one. Let's get to it. Here it is. There was a color change. It's a red isora. There was somewhere in the picture, you can appreciate it more, of course, in color. There was a change in color in the center. But if you're stuck and you don't see anything in the flower or in the leaf that you're drawing, this is a good place for you to reference and to come up with ideas to use to make your creations even more different one from the other. So this is a very good tool for you to always access. And again, it's good for leaves, and it's good for, you can apply these, say, for leaves, we're going to apply it to a flower. So everything is a go. So what we did, what I did when developing this baby here, I used, I think it's dots. Yes, it's dots. And I created a kind of a gradient, if you may, of very dots, very dense dots in the bottom, coming from the center or towards the outer part of the flower, and in a like a little oval shape. So what I did, very lightly, I kind of gently traced the area that I wanted the dots, that gradient in, and just start filling it in randomly. This has no, I want to say science to it, but it's just mark making. The only thing that you have to have in mind, if that's what you want, in this case, this is what I want. I want it to be somewhat of a gradient of this texture. So the only thing that I have to have in mind is that closer to the center, I'm going to have more dots. And then towards the outer of the flower, I'm going to have less dots. That's it. And I do the same thing here. You do the same thing on, well, in my case, if you're doing this flower, this design of flower, you do the same thing on the 4 petals. And you can also have do this flower design in a 5 petal, in a 6 petal. It's all about looking at what you have drawn, in this case this, and taking this option that we're drawing, and taking this, looking at the whole, and looking at a section that you can repeat, and taking that as inspiration for a different option, a different flower in this case. So you can turn this 4 petal flower into a 5 or 6 or 8 petal flower. And on all 4 petals. Ay, sigue mi tía divina. Tan bella como la quiero yo a usted. You guys, when you see this, yes, that's my favorite aunt. Then the next step, see how this baby here, which is actually, it's right next to that. There's the original one. Yep. We used, well, there it is. But this is the original one. 2 options, the 2 options that I had drawn. And if you fill in your workbook, if you fill in each of the sections when you're developing your options with the flowers that are pictures that I've given to you, oh yeah, that I took pictures that I've given to you. If you fill in all the spaces, it'll be easier for you when you're starting to create your single stem flowers and your gardens, because you won't have to think, what else can I place inside my single stem or my garden, because you already did it here. So the only thing you have to do is reference it. So in this case, we have 2 options. We have that little baby design, the center, and the Isora, I lost it. Let's go to the Isora. The Isora, those pictures, my Diana Margarita is going to love this story. This reminds me of my grandmother, Abuelita Margot. With my cousins, we would take this flower. Abuelita Margot had, it grows like in a bush, and she had it outside of her house. And we would take this, the center of the flower, and we would pull it from the bottom, and it would have like honey. This reminds me of my Abuelita Margot. But in any case, going back to where this came from, this is actually that part here. And of course I stylized it more. And if you see the picture, original picture, it's actually 2 sections, if I'm not mistaken. It's there's 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and then you have 2 little I don't know what the part, the pistilo, is it the pistilo? I don't know in English. But this is, you can barely see it here. This is what goes inside. It's kind of tubular, the stem for this flower. This is the part that goes inside. So if you see it here closely, it only has 2 little things that go inside the little tube outward, but we're not looking at it. It goes here, right here. So in here you have a little stem that goes inside. But I don't know, why was I saying this? Oh, the little baby flower inside. So this came from inspiration from this part here. So we have 2 options for buttons, and to make it a more interesting, we're going to use both of them. So the center is the button that is literally that piece there, and the other button is a smaller version of the main flower, and actually a smaller, simpler version, because instead of having that gradient with the hairy texture, it just has like petal shape outlined with the dots. So we're going to use both of them. So it's a 4 petal flower. And remember, I always follow the stem. And we're keeping it as close as possible to the center in this case. The next thing that I did when I was drawing this was indicate the center of each of the sections. And here. Then I draw the tip. And I touch the circle. The next part that I did, if you remember, was smoothing out the corners of each petal. And the next part that I did was making the edge darker, thicker. I could do this all day long. Then it's just translating whatever you have in your encyclopedia onto the petals, onto the templates, onto each of the skeletons. So the next part was an outline. We have, actually what I did here was that 2-piece, this baby here, that's originally only 2 petals that go inside the stem. I did it twice. That's about it. And I did it on, each of where the petals meet. So I'm going to erase here a little bit. And these are literally just little loops. You just loop around. And then I go over my 4-leaf petal. And the last section, the last detail is that dot, outline dot. And this is just, again, also random. There's no worrying about the space between each of the dotted line. And so if you are finding this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe.